Hi, Capricorn family. I hope you had a beautiful June. And here we are in July, a very interesting time of year for Capricorns every year because it is mirror season. That's what I call it. When the energy is really heightened in your opposing sign. So the sun is in Cancer and Mercury is going to be doing a retrograde back into Cancer. We have Venus in Cancer, and also we have the North Node of the Moon in Cancer, and the eclipses are happening. And so you are deeply implicated in this month. Some signs are having a really personal experience with eclipses, and Capricorn, you are definitely one of them, right? So the eclipses this month are going to be very much about you as an individual, like how you want to progress through this life. The note I have for you is that this is a month that will challenge how you've done things in the past and open you up to doing things in new ways moving forward. Because, as you are well aware, Saturn and Pluto and the South Node of the Moon have been working in your sign this year and having a lot of deep and profound conversations about what it means to be a self-responsible being, absolutely, and figuring out where that is and what that means for you in healthy ways that work for you. And the thing that's happening is that conversation is in this oppositional space with the North Node of the Moon. And July is really where we have the heart of that opposition having a head-to-head, because we have the sun in Cancer, we have a Mercury retrograde moving through Cancer, we have Venus moving through Cancer, and we have the eclipses. So when we have these eclipses, we're recalibrating our conversation with the North and the South Node. We're recalibrating, we're clearing away, we're cleansing. And Cappies, you guys are very associated. Saturn is your ruling planet. You're associated with the discipline, with the physicality of being in this world. You're also associated with, that disciplinarian father. So you have a lot of that self-responsibility and that ability to show up and take things on your shoulder and say, this is mine and I'm going to take care of this. But what you're being led to do is heal so that you can find that balance with the other part of yourself, which is that loving big heart that wants to ask for help and wants to help others in ways that are nurturing and healing. So with all the eclipses and the oppositions that are going to be happening this month that your sign is so deeply tied to, this is going to be a time that's going to help you find a new balance within those things. And that is going to in turn lead to a lot of new possibilities for you when it comes to work, when it comes to love, and when it comes to connection. You are being asked to take some risks. They will be perceived risks because you're going to be doing things in ways that are new and different from how you've ever done them in the past. And that can be really overwhelming. So this month in and of itself is not going to be so much challenging you to do that as to do the healing and the connecting in that will help you so that you can start taking the risks that will make sense in your life now, who you are now, not who you've been in the past, not how relationships have gone in the past and work has gone in the past. Five of Swords. Speaking of the past, Five of Swords is like a card that comes up when we don't have trust, when we lack trust in ourselves and then in others. When we don't trust ourselves, we tend to get in situations that put us with people and around people who aren't trustworthy. And we tend to not listen to our own boundaries, and then we get sucked into situations where we feel that there are people acting kind of out of authenticity and out of morality, right? And there can be some paranoia, but fives in tarot are all about growth in the most uncomfortable point in something. And I think you guys are growing out of a need to continue to get into situations where you overgive and where you suppress when you need help or when you need to ask for something. Seven of Wands, stepping on up, right? You guys are very active, intensive people. You like to be in there doing and experiencing. Five of Swords and Seven of Wands are both very dynamic cards. They use a lot of external energy to get things done, which is really interesting because these eclipses and Mercury retrograde are going to be pulling a lot of people inward, quiet, and pulling a lot of people out of an ability to take a lot of wild, erratic action. So we have the new moon in Cancer on July 2nd. That's going to be a total solar eclipse. It'll be visible in a few small places in South America and on the ocean, but not really anywhere else. Wheel of Fortune. Okay, this is all making sense now. We also have a full moon in Capricorn. It's your full moon, and it's also an eclipse. It's a partial lunar eclipse that is happening on July 16th. And that is really where you kind of get bathed in the waters of the universe to come out anew and fresh and step fully into your power. But both of the eclipses, one is going to be about your relationships and the way you do relationships and the way you open up your vulnerability, and the other is going to be about how you decide you want to take responsibility and show up to those relationships. But it's going to shake that equation up quite a bit. A whole chunk of cards came out. The Magician, Two of Swords, Hanged Man, oh you guys, the Tower. Let's pull one more card. Those of you who have been with me for a couple of years know that there was a period there, about a year and a half ago, where Cappies were getting the Tower card like every month. It was so wild, and I don't know, there's something about Capricorn energy that I think kind of rolls with the Tower, to be honest. Like that active agent energy that you guys have means that things happen. Things move in your life. You know, things don't ever stay stagnant in Capricorn world. There's this kind of desire to move things about. Ten of Swords. That card's been coming up a ton. So this all makes sense to me though, y'all, because here's what's going on. You're having a death of self. And the thing is that it's a death of doing things in this difficult way. Because before we get to these cards, even, you know, I want to finish talking about these eclipses. You have an eclipse in your relational house, in your relational house. And that is about personal love relationships. It's also about work relationships and any meaningful relationship in your life, how you relate to people. And you have an eclipse in your sign and how you are showing up to that. And you're being invited to work through life differently. So any relationships that are in that old manner of you carrying the load, of it being a back and forth, of a tussle, of it being hard, of it being difficult, is going away. And there's also something going on that says you can no longer hold yourself harsh and rigid against real love. You can't keep choosing the same patterns and expect to experience a deep and meaningful love. You know, if you meet somebody and they are really kind and they really show up and they have that big vibrant heart, and you kind of shut yourself off from them and you choose the person who's unavailable and kind of wispy and stuff like that, like what's going to happen? You're going to live the same cycle over and over again. And that's the thing. So these two cards right here have to do with your old cycle. And this is something that, you know, as the south node of the moon came into your sign, you started to work on. So this isn't all going to be new information. You started working on this. We had eclipses in January connected to your sign. So you've started this process already. But the Five of Swords and the Seven of Wands are competitive, harsh cards. It's about this whole idea that there's got to be one person who's got a leg up on other people and is taking action to do that, right? And you guys do have that tendency to be in there making things happen, right? Wanting to be successful, wanting to have an edge on everything, wanting to be an active agent in it. But both of these cards have some pain in them. They have the sense of like exhaustion because there's so much pushing to move through things. What these eclipses are going to do is they're going to revolutionize the way you connect with that concept. And the other beautiful thing about this month is that we have a Mercury retrograde that starts on July 9th in Leo, which is your 8th house of transformation, and moves back through Leo, hits into Cancer on July 19th, and moves through Cancer until July 30th when it stations direct. That Mercury retrograde is going to pull you in to do this revolution. That's where the Wheel of Fortune and the Magician come in. This is change at a big level. Wheel of Fortune is a death and rebirth card. It's the 10 in tarot. And it's kind of like closing out a chapter of a book and starting the next chapter, or even closing out a whole volume and opening up the next volume. You know, it's a time thing. It's a season thing. To every season, turn. That passage, that poem is really connected with Wheel of Fortune. This is a seasonal shift over, and these eclipses are doing some really intense things with that. But that turn, we are turning away from this. We are turning away from this. This competitive, harsh, self-protective energy is getting turned away. And what we are turning toward, my Capricorn loves, is deeper ease and love. Relationships are not going to look the same, and that's a very good thing. For those of you who are in deep relationships or in good partnerships that you want to continue, this is going to be a time where, you know, your patterns and the way you connect are going to shift in a way that will be helpful for you, right? But the Magician is calling in some new things. So you may be noticing there is some higher, faster paced manifestation actually going on, despite the fact that we have Mercury retrograde and we have these eclipses which throw us for a loop. Life goes on. We're going to continue to experience things. Eclipses are kind of have a lot of momentum behind them, so they tend to accelerate change very quickly. They accelerate information coming in. The Mercury retrograde slows us down so we can incorporate it, but the Magician is a manifester. He starts bringing in the new stuff right and left. There's a new chapter beginning here for you. And it is going to scare the pants off of you, not because it's bad, but because it's good. Because it's going to ask you to use new skill sets. It's going to ask you to show up and ask questions in new ways. It's going to ask you to be seen in new ways. And that's where the Two of Swords and the Hanged Man come in. You're going to have to think about this. You're going to have to think about this opportunity, this possibility, this changeover for a little bit. Let it sink in. Take a deep breath. The Two of Swords and the Hanged Man are protective energies that slow you down enough to hear. Not to react. Not to jump to conclusions, because I tell you what, this is not the month to jump to conclusions. Just don't even go there. I would highly recommend you not go there. This is a month to sit and watch yourself and watch what comes in. Watch what comes in, watch what works, watch how it unfolds. Watch where you notice that you wake up in the morning. Who is it that you want to talk to? What is it that you really want to do? You know, this is a great month to keep a little journal and ask yourself, what's turning me on today? And I know that sounds really basic and simple, but when you write a couple of pages of that in the morning before your day even begins, I tell you what, you will surprise yourself by what that is. It can be something as simple as having a beautiful cup of coffee. It can be something as profound as realizing you want to be fully seen by another person, and then that involves you having to take off some armor. It can be as profound as making a connection about a matrilineal healing that you need to do within yourself. You don't have to take on the pain of past generations. I had a really powerful May with this specific idea of healing matrilineal lines, which, having all this energy in Cancer, a lot of us are going to be doing. And actually not even matrilineal, it was patrilineal, but it was my grandmother on my father's side. I realized that I was having a really deep conversation with my family, and I realized that growing up we had inherited some immigrant stress mentalities that had to do with success and failure and embarrassment. And those strategies were used for pure survival culturally in a time when there was a lot of poverty, and for my family, and a lot of unknowns. But of course, those aren't always going to be applicable, right? And just realizing, oh, that was given to me generationally, but it no longer serves or applies. It can be as profound as that this month. But wherever you're making those connections, it's very important for you to be listening into them, because you are being ushered into a new phase and you are being pulled away from your natural way. You know, South Node work is not easy, as you know. Saturn, Pluto, South Node, you are being asked to do things differently than your natural way. You're being asked to pull towards this other pole. And that's where the Tower and the Ten of Swords is coming in. This is a death of self, right? This is a death of a way of being. The Tower's been showing up this month, though, and here's the thing with it. These eclipses and the way they're rolling through with the power of Cancer Capricorn energy, I mean, come on. It's so powerful. We are working direct divine energy here, and it means that the way that information comes through is this lightning strike zinging. It is very electrical. The veil between ourselves and way we're getting information is super thin this month, which means that there isn't like a diffuseness to learning how to leave behind this kind of energy. It's not diffuse, it's very concentrated, deep zings of energy that kill out old stuff that can't stay. Like, it can't stay, it's gotta go. So it's going. Bye. And I tell you what, the number of revolution cards you have in this, there are 3 really specific revolution cards. All 3 of those are revolutionary in their own way. And I'm not surprised, because, you know, we're talking about these eclipses, we're talking about Mercury Retrograde, we're talking about the oppositions. Venus is going to be opposing Saturn in your sign this month. The Sun is going to be opposing Saturn in your sign this month. You're getting a lot of direct challenges from Sun and Venus. You're getting a lot of calls, wake-up calls. But you also have Uranus and Taurus in your 5th house, in a fellow earth sign, in your creative and heart and romance chakra, or heart chakra romance sector. You know, Caps, you are being asked to love in new ways that are not familiar to you. You are being asked to ask for help in ways that are not familiar to you. You are being asked to be vulnerable in ways that are not familiar to you. Not because you don't know how to do any of those things, because you do. But you're learning how to do it at like the next level. And that's really, like, truly, it's like it's learning a whole new skill. It's like starting a whole new class with a whole new textbook, and it can be really overwhelming. And it's a big ask, and it does mean that, like, who you've been in the past is going away. Old patterning. Like, a lot of you are going to be experiencing old patterning having to go away in your relationships, specifically. And that has to do with not telling people when you need help. It has to do with choosing people who are unavailable, or who are overly needy or put a lot on you. It's asking you to choose people who are available, who are kind-hearted. You know, it's asking you to choose healthier management of your time and your energy. It's asking you to, like, not just feel like you have to be successful on this surface level, but that you can be vulnerable and open and sometimes fall down in these other ways. And for each of you, that's going to be different. But you are being asked to kind of take off a shell, and that's really what this Tower, 10 of Swords is about. It's about feeling naked in the light of divine energy, and it also is about feeling naked in the light of connecting with somebody. And quite honestly, when you really connect with something that you care about, whether it's a project or a person or a situation or a scenario that you know you want to share the road with, in that time that you really choose something, and not choose something out of old patterning, but choose something out of soul, right? There is a sense of death and grief, because you are going to be leaving behind what you've been in the past. You are going to get lightning strike awakenings that make you realize, oh, I am stepping into this, and there is no going back to the way that I have been in the past. There can be homesickness that comes up. There can be moments of overwhelm. There can be moments of wanting to shut down and run away. There can be moments where it just feels like too much. And it's funny how that happens in times where we are actually the closest to what we desire. And when we are actually experiencing the experiences we want to have, and we are growing the most. It's kind of like type 2 fun. I'm sure you guys are aware of type 2 fun. You know, it's the kind of thing where you go on some crazy hike or outdoor adventure where it's just like miserable. It's like sleeting in your face the whole time, and your feet are frozen and you run out of supplies. But when you get done with that adventure, you look back at it and it is the most beautiful thing you've ever experienced. I think when we open emotionally, we're learning new skills, and it's beautiful and it's good, and it's a new job, and it's while we're starting to learn those new skills, it's kind of this terrible experience. It's overwhelming and scary. But then once we start to master those skills, we're so happy. We took the time to dive in there, that we took the time to be vulnerable, that we took the time to be zinged, that we took the time to move past this old patterning. And then we start to really appreciate how much good stuff is coming in. That's what you're working with, Caps. It's pretty powerful month ahead. Be gentle with yourselves, be kind with yourselves, get plenty of rest. This Two of Swords and Hanged Man is telling me that for you to have some extra time to write to yourself, to read some inspiring books, to breathe, to go on long walks in nature, to spend time with people who will give you the space to help you open up. Those are all really important in this process, because you will want to shut down. You will want to step back from it, and yet your soul is going to keep driving you forward. So I'm going to close it out there. You can find me on Instagram at SarahVerba. I would love to see you over there. I'm also hopefully going to be opening up some sessions for later in the year, so you can check out my website at SARAHTAROT.com to look at my calendar. I haven't opened them up quite yet, but I will soon, so you can keep an eye out. I will leave all of those goodies in the description box. You can also find PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry on her Etsy shop. I will leave her link below as well. I think that's everything. So go check out the description box if you want to know how to find me or contact me, or you want jewelry. And I will see you guys for August for more beauty. Take amazing care of yourselves. Have an amazing eclipse season in Mercury Retrograde, and I will talk to you so soon. Mwah.